Well, welcome to week 7, and we're going to talk about micronutrients and macronutrients this week, and metabolism of those, and some of the dietary aspects that are important today to discuss. The video in the background is Professor Kirsten from Wageningen University. That's in Holland, the Netherlands. And he's talking about what carbohydrates are. The macronutrients we're going to talk about are the 3 standard macronutrients, carbohydrates being the first, and proteins the second, and then lipids or fats. We need all of these in our body, and we primarily need carbohydrates for energy, but we also need micronutrients. So I'm going to switch to a quick view of a Wikipedia list of micronutrients so that you can look at those for a second. These tend to be things that you'll recognize. Vitamins, there's a whole list of vitamins, water-soluble vitamins, and other vitamins. You see these listed on food labels. And then there's minerals. And although they call these trace minerals in this video, in this Wikipedia post, I don't necessarily like the word trace because they're extremely important. I've been doing some research on iodine. Some of you already know that I use iodine and have been researching it and have found that it has a lot of functions that are essential to our immune system, as well as thyroid function. And people think today that perhaps we're not getting enough. And you'll recognize citric acid, acetic acid, lactic acid. So these are again some more like vitamin C and so forth. There's ascorbic acid, vitamin C over here. Citric acid, where do you get that? In fruit. Citric fruit like oranges and grapefruits. And why is it important? It prevents scurvy. Without citric acid, your teeth fall out. Thank you. Anyway, that's not fun, is it? But let's go back and take a look at Dr. Wagenen's video that whoa, there he is. Take a look at that again. And I'm going to play this for a second so we can take a look at all the foods that he's got in front of him, and that will come across the screen in the back also as he talks. And I'll just speed it up a little bit. There we go. So I guess I should get out of the way, huh? So you can see she's got carbohydrates from nuts. I think Nutella is hazelnuts, but I'm not sure. Anyway, bread. And he's got bananas, which are high in carbs. There's carbs in fruits. There's carbs in vegetables. So like potatoes, which are the starchy vegetables. Here's carbs in kidney beans. Those are starchy vegetables. He's got pasta here, spaghetti. I'm not sure what this is. And, oh, of course, there's high fructose corn syrup in colas, and then there's cereals. So we spend a lot of our time eating carbohydrates. Some people think we eat too much in the developed countries because we're too wealthy and we can afford it. Carbohydrates tend to be addicting, and that's a concern today. So we're going to start talking just a little bit about carbohydrates and some of the problems associated with them. Carbohydrates provide about 4 calories per gram, and carbohydrates provide about the same density of calories as proteins, 4 calories per gram. That's an important aspect. People talk today about the importance of carbohydrates and about limiting our diet because we eat too much carbohydrates, people think, and we probably do. One of the key things about carbohydrates, though, to remember is that when we eat very highly digested or digestible carbohydrates, like cooked starches, potatoes, pasta, rice, and so forth, we are getting a very ready form of sugar that is quickly digested and can spike our blood sugar pretty fast. And we probably eat too much of that. Our digestive system is made to have a higher content of fiber than most of us eat. So it's recommended that we eat our foods that contain carbohydrates raw, like apples, with a low glycemic index, which means it's hard to digest, takes a long time to digest, which is a better situation for us. And many of these vegetables are better eaten raw than cooked. But at least if we eat a lot of vegetables, we get higher fiber content, and that's important for our digestive system to function properly. And carbohydrates in general are important for our brain to function properly. Every cell in our body needs energy from carbohydrates. So we do need some. And when we have low levels of carbohydrates, we can get tired, sleepy, befuddled. Our brains don't work well enough. So we have to have at least 30 grams a day. And some people believe that we should have at least 100 grams per day. Well, I'm not sure which is correct, but I don't think we should eat heavily on carbohydrates unless they're on digestible carbohydrates, like these raw green beans are much better than pinto beans. Nuts, which contain some very nice fatty acids for us. Raw carrots, which carrots are like potatoes. They're pretty starchy, but if they're raw, they're not too bad. So all of these green vegetables are important for the function of all of the cells in our body. But, and this is sort of funny in a way to say, but there's another doctor whose book I read about diabetes, and he was explaining that our digestive system really requires a lot more fiber, that we are made to eat a lot more things in the raw state, and if we eat the right amounts and the right things, we feel better, we do not get constipation, we do not get diarrhea. And he said, you'll never need toilet paper. And that's an indication of whether or not you're eating properly, he says. His name is Dr. Bernstein, and he's an expert at normalizing blood sugars by monitoring them and by teaching people to eat right, and he's an excellent diabetic coach. He charges a lot of money, and he lives in New York. Okay, let's pause for a second. On this page is a chart that I thought you would like to look at. And this chart shows the amount of sugar in the diets of people from different, and this is sugar, like cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup. In fact, the high fructose corn sugar is what puts some of these bars way high in the for some of these developed countries. So in some areas, over a period of time, I removed myself from this so you could see that the blue bar is sugar, kilograms per capita per year, per person per year, and sugar and sweetener in kilograms per capita per year. So it's a combination of sugar and other sweeteners. But look at how high these graphs are, and look at the United States way over here. It's about the highest in the world. Of course, we are producing most of the high fructose corn syrup that is being shipped all over the world to sweeten foods. The developed world, even Japan's getting up there. Ireland is high. So Mexico is high. And here's Ghana in Africa. Here's China. Very small amount. But still, diabetes and obesity are getting to be problems in the countries that don't eat as much sugar. So maybe sugar isn't as bad a culprit as we've been saying it is. Whether it's the type of sugar, perhaps, or specific other chemicals that are causing these obesity epidemics, I don't know. But I do know that according to some doctors, sugar is addicting. Some people say it is more addicting than cocaine. I wouldn't know, but I do know that it is addicting. And as Jay Leno says sometimes, or used to say, in the commercial with Lay's potato chips or corn chips, he'd say, we make more. Eat what you want, we'll make more. Maybe it was Doritos. Maybe it was Doritos. Anyway, point is, go ahead and gobble them up. We'll make more. And the total amount that we eat is possibly more of a problem than the actual things that we eat. We don't really know. But I do know that in my own experience, as I tried to control my blood sugar, and I got a high blood sugar from diabetes, and then I tried to learn to control it. I got the books out, and I bought a food scale, and I tried to eat right, and I was about in tears when I realized how small each meal had to be healthy. And I did it, but it was absolute, it was just tearful. I mean, I've never seen meals that small in my lifetime. And maybe that explains some of the problems that we are having in the world. When we behave like gluttons, we get the diseases of gluttony, and diabetes is certainly one of them. So let's take a quick look at what happens with normal carbohydrate metabolism in our body. When we eat foods, our blood sugar basically goes up, but our pancreas is stimulated to release insulin. That insulin is picked up on the surface of our cells and opens the door to let glucose in. Now, you'll see on the screen the term here, glycogen. What is glycogen? Glycogen is the main storage molecule for sugar. When we take glucose into our cells and hook them together, it becomes long chains of glucose molecules, and that's glycogen. Glycogen is a very fast molecule to turn into sugar when needed to increase blood sugar. So, glycogen is stored in the liver and in muscles. So when we need quick energy, we've got glycogen. If our blood sugar falls too low, our pancreas then releases another hormone that is the opposite of insulin. It releases glucagon, and that takes the glycogen, tears it down, and puts it into our blood. And so our blood sugar is regulated in a feedback loop where when it gets too high, we release more insulin. When it gets too low, we release more glucagon, and that breaks down the glycogen. So it's sort of a vicious cycle. It works like a thermometer works in our house, or the thermostat works in our house. When it gets too cold, the heat turns on. When it gets too warm, the heat turns off. Now, the problem with diabetes in relation to this is that our pancreas either doesn't produce enough insulin, or the insulin that it produces doesn't seem to work when it gets to the cells. And that's called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is reduced dramatically by physical exercise. You've probably heard the news lately and the significant reports that every news agency has been talking about, that if we just get up off our butts and move around every day for an hour or so, at least, then we'll feel better and we'll be healthier. And our chances of a heart attack and stroke go way down. And it's interesting to note that many industries, especially insurance companies like Blue Cross and other companies that are concerned about the health of their employees and the cost of health care, are requiring now that their employees do not sit in chairs at desks, but walk on treadmills at workstations or walk around the building with iPads doing their work. And it's true. I know people who do that, and it's very, very interesting. So This will be the end of this video, and we'll go on to another shortly.